with Thomas in my house in Las Vegas, and he's a friend of mine that I met in Los Angeles at a conference, a speakers, authors, networking group. He's somebody who has gone and done a lot of things in terms of business, from doing real estate to entrepreneurial ventures ever since he was very young, and now doing a company called Vegas Jets. I would love to just dive into like your story, so you can introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about all the cool things, because it kind of really impressed me.
Yeah, I've been a serial entrepreneur since I was 17. Yeah. So essentially, I've never sort of enjoyed the employee life. For me, I think it was always clear from the beginning that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was fortunate that I had the opportunity to be in various different industries and businesses. So not to ramble on too long, but the first business I had was a record label based out of Montreal while I was at university there. And that then got me into new media, internet. This was sort of in the mid-2000s. And was fortunate enough then to do a lot of product launches for big companies like LVMH, BMW, and the Virgin Group. That got me into publicity and sort of in dealings with product launches like for Virgin America, Virgin Mobile. That was a lot of fun until, you might recall, in 2003 there was a big blackout in the New York area, New York State, and that got me into renewable energy. So I just thought wind turbines were really cool. I was fortunate enough that I built sort of a 3,000 megawatt portfolio of wind and solar parks, and IPO'd that company in 2008, just before the big credit crisis hit. And yeah, so I kind of jump from opportunity to opportunity depending on what I see is happening in the market and where I see opportunities.
Your first opportunity being in music as a teenager, was that something mostly due to fun, or was it a need that you felt?
I saw an opportunity where in EDM music, the record labels in America didn't really realize how big this was going to be. And so I went out and I licensed literally music out of Europe, coming out of Germany, the UK, Eastern Europe. And every time the big companies like Universal, BMG, and Warner realized it was going to be a hit, oh, you have to talk to this kid in Montreal that has the license for North America. So I was a middleman. And essentially, I was able to lock that up and build a portfolio. Now, in music, if you have a music portfolio, that has value because it generates royalties. And that was a valuable acquisition for record labels. So that was kind of how I got into that. It was passion for music. And I started out originally helping my best friend's brother record some music. He ended up actually getting a publishing deal with Sony Music. I'm like, wow, you can make money with this? So that was essentially how I got into that. And surprisingly, one of my co-founders now in Vegas Jets happens to be my best friend as well. So we kind of came full circle.
That's amazing. That's such a long experience to have like a friend and business partner throughout your pretty much your whole life. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think what one of the things that I've looked at in sort of all the things in my businesses have been what I call a market disruption event. And a market disruption event I define as a change in technology and a shift in consumer behavior. And so that's been true sort of for every business that I've started. And to put it sort of in context for what I'm doing now, Vegas Jets, essentially, I don't know if you know this, but airlines require 118 people to fly an aircraft from point A to point B. And there is one employee responsible for 2,360 passengers. So this is why you experience anxiety and stress, because you're not only experiencing that, but thrown into a tin can. So what we said is, why not use brand new technology like artificial intelligence and machine learning to improve efficiency such that employees can focus more on customer satisfaction and increase the ability to take care of that customer. And then the shift in consumer behavior has been, we've all seen the video of people getting dragged off of airplanes. There's been a shift where people are kind of tired of it. And so they want a different kind of experience. So we saw that opportunity. Now, my previous business in renewables, once again, completely different industry. But what was interesting was there was a blackout. And the powers that be at the state and the federal level realized that we have to shift. So there was a change in the market, and people were looking at renewable energy. We were getting subsidies, and there was a new technology. Wind turbines were being more efficient. Solar panels were getting cheaper because they're coming out of China. So there's always sort of an event that had made this business viable. And I think that's probably the biggest tip I can give to any entrepreneur. Look for that. Absolutely look for that.
How did you find that market disruption event for each of your businesses? I mean, I know that my old mentor, Corey Rudel, he used to say, if you want to find what you're calling a market disruption event, he would advise everyone to look at internet forums and find out where people are talking about the missing causes. Now, you did something different. You kind of noticed certain things, but I mean, what was it that caught your eye to make you realize that these were market disruption events that you should chase and lock down?
So probably to better define it is I look for a problem to solve. And that market disruption event has to be in place in order for that business to be successful. Because the market is ready for it, investors are ready for it, and so the business can thrive. So it's always solving a problem. A problem at Vegas Jets is our mission is very simple: reduce stress and anxiety for the air traveler and put in a bit of fun. In my previous business, once again, it was solving a problem. We had a blackout, the grid was unstable, and we wanted more clean energy. Okay, here's Thomas, I'm solving a problem. I'm building a wind farm, I'm putting more clean power on the grid. And I think that's sort of the key is the problem doesn't have to be very complicated or complex. You want to kind of bring it down to the most simple form. But it has to be a problem that the consumer wants solved, not you. And we've seen it many times. There's a billion apps on the App Store, right? And nobody has downloaded them, or barely anybody uses them. So I think the key is to listen to what the market wants. Keep your feelers out. Look at a broad spectrum of industries. Now, it helps if you're passionate about something. I'm passionate about technology and wind turbines and aircrafts, because they're both really cool pieces of technology. So if you're passionate about something, then you can sort of see what's happening in that particular industry. And you see trends. You see things happening, whether that's in the news, consumer comments, or create a survey. It's that simple. But always ask the consumer. And that could be a company, right? It could be B2B kind of business. But always ask the consumer.
One of the things that I love what you're doing is that it kind of follows this passion that I'm kind of exploring, which is going from this world that I know and very familiar with, from real social dynamics, seminars, to doing things of all different kinds. I mean, you've done real estate, renewable energy, the music industry, and you're probably going to explore all sorts of various ventures as well. Now I'm trying to get into the music world myself.
Right.
Building a musical on the story of our company.
Right.
We're working with artists, and we'll probably be recreating our niche in different seminars. But that's a little bit more similar to what I'm used to doing.
Right.
What have you taken in terms of your skill sets from one kind of business to another successfully, and what were you not able to take?
I think it's been a learning process for me. So as an entrepreneur, you do make mistakes. I think for me, it's always been solving a problem. So on the music side, it was how do we get the music to the consumer now that they're just downloading stuff off the internet and still make money, right? So that was a problem that we needed to solve. In the energy side is how do we get the permits to build something. So I've always been sort of the person that's really good at fixing things or solving problems. And that has kind of carried me through to all these different industries. What hasn't translated is, I think going about the music industry is very different than going about the power industry, which is very different than going into the transportation industry. So the personalities of the various industries are completely different, and the way business is done is very different. So for example, in entertainment, it's relationship based. It takes a lot of time to build relationships, and it's who you know. And that doesn't necessarily translate to, for example, the power industry, because I was kind of ridiculed and really nobody paid attention to me until I built my first wind farm, right? Then the big guys come up to you at a convention and kind of slap you on the shoulder. Hey, let's take you for a beer, you know, now you've proven it. And so that was completely different. Like, it was a significantly bigger uphill battle. So I think it's understanding that if you're jumping industries, that you understand the personality of that particular industry, because it doesn't necessarily mean the way business is done as one industry is the same as in another.
Also, the experience that you have is very diverse from what I'm used to, because what you're doing also is so different from the previous companies in terms of corporate management and board structure and board governance. You've had companies where you've owned it. You had companies where you did private placements and raised money. You had companies that you took public on the stock exchange. Now, when you organize that kind of board governance, the difference is so broad, and I'm wondering, just because I've heard preferences from my friend Tony Shea.
Yeah.
And I've been curious about what your preferences are from board governance as a standpoint of what you feel is the best for you.
I don't think they're very different. So the way I've always structured my businesses have always been a lean board that has expertise in various areas that will assist the business. I like to structure my business as if we're public, and that means I like to have a proper board with some independent directors, but I like to have a lot of advisors. Advisors are great because they can't meddle within your company too much. In particular at the beginning, when you're a smaller business, or you're just starting up, or you're just, you yourself, then sometimes you have to shift very quickly. I think it boils down to, and I am in agreement with Tony Shea on culture, building that culture, and that culture will always come also from the board. And if the board isn't in alignment, and the people and the culture of the board isn't in alignment, then you're going to have a hard time translating that down to employees as well. So I always say, build it as if you're going to go public, but keep it perhaps a bit more informal. So, do your financial reports, report to the board, right? But fortunately, you won't have the obligations of being a public company. So even pretty much every startup I've ever started out with a lean board, maybe 2-3 people, and then probably put that up to about 5 max, and then a lot of advisors. And that's been sort of a very successful structure for us in terms of setting up governance. I think governance is very important. I see a lot of startups. I have my hands in Silicon Valley with venture capital investments. And I see a lot of these startups have major problems that come to haunt them 4 or 5 years down the road when they're going for their big money. And something wasn't done right, and it costs them a fortune to fix it. Or it could cause an upset and an investor jumps ship. So I think you really always want to make sure from day one, get a corporate finance lawyer to figure out your business structure, get some legal advice. I think that's very important. And put some people on the board that have experience in that particular industry, that are going to criticize you, that are going to say, you're crazy, no, you shouldn't be doing this, right? So you can actually get some input.
Now, has there been any events that are in your life on a personal level that has dramatically influenced the way you run your businesses or your business itself?
Absolutely. I think the credit crisis was a good example. I lost millions, and I mean like ridiculous amounts of money. And so I think one of the lessons I learned from that was don't sell your companies for stock, always sell for cash. Don't rely on an earnout. The new owner will always mess up your business. And if they mess up your business and your earnout is dependent on some sort of a cash bonus based on performance, but you can't reach the performance target because maybe they're starving the company or they've shifted strategies. So I think one of the big lessons I learned was that when you are selling your business or you are selling control of your business, make sure that the actual exit is a real exit. It's a cash exit. So I think I learned a lot of lessons there, because for me, when I sold one of my other businesses, you know, I was locked up. It was stock. The company made some disastrous decisions. I was no longer on the board. I had no input anymore. I was no longer there. And I just saw the stock tank, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. So I think that was one of sort of the big lessons in life for me, to change how I approach when I'm selling a business.
Yeah, that's good. I guess the other thing I'm thinking of is because you've dealt with so many different kinds of businesses, the variety of people you also experience is also huge, from corporate culture, is what we were talking about earlier. What is it from the corporate cultures that you've experienced from these different businesses that you liked and didn't like? And how did it affect what you're doing now at Vegas Jets?
I think it was very early on. When I started my record label, we had a pretty good corporate culture. It was lots of fun. And at that time, I didn't think much about corporate culture. But when I ended up selling my company to a larger label, and I won't mention who it was, their corporate culture was, the best way to describe it was kind of nasty. It was backstabbing. It was a big culture that I did not enjoy working there, because the politics were so bad that I just wanted to get out of it. And that was a big lesson for me, because I said, okay, any future business that I build, I'm really going to focus on building the corporate culture in such a way that I want to work there, that it's efficient, that it's fun for people to work there. Lean management, flat management structures give people a lot of opportunity to make their own decisions, to grow in their job, to build up their own responsibilities. Employees will make mistakes. That's just a given. I always say, you know, you can make one sort of semi-big mistake, you get a sort of a free pass. Just don't do it again, right? But I think then what happens is, let's assume you get big and the company is thriving and you want to exit that business. You want to make sure that whoever is buying your company also has that same idea, that same corporate culture, because it'll get lost. So a good example, what we're seeing right now is Virgin America being acquired by Alaska. Now, as you can say, every press release in the world will say, yeah, the culture will stay the same and it's going to get merged and all of that. But the Virgin culture is so unique that as a company gets integrated into a different company with a different culture, a lot of that stuff is going to get lost. And so I'm a big proponent of building a culture that's fun for the business and for employees. And if you don't have that culture and it gets lost, you can destroy the business in the process very quickly.
What about the people that you've worked with that have a lot of talent, but you just personally don't get along with them? Do you have a situation where you keep these people with you, or is it always just a situation where if you're not adding to the culture, you have to terminate them?
By the time you interview with me for a potential job, we're pretty much certain you have the skill set. And so when we interview people, we focus a lot on culture, on fit. We want to make sure that if you're going to come work for us, that you fit into the group dynamics. Because if you don't, it's going to be a disaster from day one. No matter how smart you are, if you don't fit into that culture, it's probably better you don't take this job, because you're not going to have a good time. And we also want to make sure that if you're having a terrible time and you're coming into the office every day frowning, you know, you're going to bring down the mood of everybody else in the office. So we test for skill sets. We know if you're very smart or talented or you have a great track record. So by the time we do one or two interviews and then you do the interview with me, it's all about corporate culture. It really is, because I think it drives a business.
When people get to the standpoint where they start talking about things like corporate culture, I feel like they've gone through quite a lot of hard knocks and experiences, because it's something that's such a high strategic level thought process to me. I think it's also super important. I'm wondering, what the mindsets and thought processes that you have on business are that have guided your mission and your vision for your companies.
I think corporate culture isn't very complicated. I think it's actually very simple. It's the owners of the business will set the culture. And there are some businesses that I have worked with where I was like, wow, this is a completely corporate culture. I would never fit into this particular business. I'm also a very strong proponent that if you have customers or even suppliers that don't jive with you, it's probably better to say goodbye to that customer than to make your own life miserable. And culture can be as simple as knowing what your employees like and rewarding them, right? It doesn't have to be a huge, high-level, 200-page document about our culture. It could just be 5 keywords, and we live by those 5 keywords. And so in terms of Vegas Jets, just to put it into current context, we always say our mission is very simple. Reduce stress and anxiety for the air traveler. It's not very complicated. And our culture stems from that. So I have somebody calling me panicking, right? And it's a customer calling. I'm stuck in LA. My flight got canceled. I need to get to Las Vegas right now. Now, when they say right now, they probably mean 30 minutes. There's no way you can reposition aircraft that fast or something like that. But we take that call and we help that person out. It's not because we're going to make a sale. It's not because they may not even be an existing customer, but it meets our mission. So if I have an individual from our customer satisfaction team handle that call, they'll go and actually book them a ticket on whichever airline gets them there. And we've had this experience where they're like, hang up the phone, run to the other airline, right? We're just going to book you a ticket because we're meeting our mission. And now if you're empowering employees based on that simple premise, now working becomes fun. As people have more fun working, they are more efficient, they are more dedicated, and people will go, the further mile for you as an employer, right? Just because you build belonging. And so it doesn't have to be too complex or complicated, but I think you need to understand who's working for you. And you, as the owner of the business, should know your employees, right? And as you grow, the challenge for you becomes, you start out, you have 5 people, you're really close, you're getting a business started. All of a sudden now you have 30, 50, 100. Like we went from a group of 11 people on Friday to 124 by Monday, And how do you maintain the culture? How do you get that? So the key is then communicating the corporate culture to each individual employee, understanding what people want, asking questions. And so it doesn't have to be a huge doctrine, right? But it can be as simple as just asking questions, knowing what your employees want, and then catering to that.
Let's talk a little bit about Vegas Jets and where you guys
Sure.
are. When I first met you, I was on your website. I put down some information and wanted to just get more updates about where you guys were as you guys were developing. And I kind of wanted to just figure out what's happened since the last time we talked, and where are you guys? What are you guys doing? You're already talking about how you're working with customers already and helping them
absolutely.
out. And I think I'd love to hear what's happened since then. I didn't even realize that you're already working with customers.
So we've gone from 0 requests on our website to around 380 requests on our website every month, which is a lot. And those requests could be various transactions because we focus a lot on not just flights, but also hotels and nightlife and combinations thereof. Our business has gone from an idea to actually executing in a relatively short time. We only started September, I guess, last year, where we really started offering it to the public. And we've been able to grow our business, to build our business, to build up partnerships very quickly, and get out there. And once again, for us, it was just very clear of figuring out what the mission is, and then exceeding customers' expectations, not ours, but theirs, it's going beyond. And so we always say it's not customer service, it's customer satisfaction. And that's kind of where our business has been kind of skyrocketing just because we are focusing on culture. There's a lot that has happened with us in the last 6 months in terms of growth, in terms of access. We're still focusing a lot on the California market. So a lot of people, it's actually the busiest charter market in North America. So the San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas triangle. And so what we're really trying to do is really cater to that market. Business travelers that are trying to save time and perhaps spend more time with family or have more time to do what they need to do. Vacation travelers to Las Vegas that just want to have VIP experience or a better experience. And so we've developed a program called Private Class. So it's one up above first class. And our Private Class program is very simple in that we just, there's no lineups. We just make your life so much easier and so much more fun traveling because we think it should be part of that total experience. And then there's convention travelers, right? Groups that are traveling that just want to have a better travel experience. And so, yeah, it's taken off. We're quite happy where we are. We could be bigger, and we are going to get there. But we also want to make sure that we test everything in a smaller market before we sort of spread ourselves too thin. Once again, customer satisfaction being the key.
Just to give some clarity for me, it sounds like what you're doing is a combination of what we've heard about from, say, Jet Suite X, where you're selling seats on a plane, but you're also providing them with nightlight services and party services, hotel, lodgings, and whatever, kind of like an extension, like a VIP concierge service.
Correct. So there's companies like JetSmarter out there where you pay a very large membership fee and then you get access to shuttles and flights. We don't believe in that. So for us, there are no membership fees ever. You can come to us whenever and book with us, number one. Number two, we saw Jet Suite X it's almost more like a commuter flight these days because the aircraft are much bigger. You can have up to like 20, 25 people in an aircraft. I don't see much difference other than maybe going through a private terminal. We'd like to think that our experience is significantly better. The aircraft are smaller. The price points may be a little bit higher, but the experience is so much better. And so we do kind of differentiate ourselves from the others by saying no membership fees. We offer a money-back guarantee. Who does that in aviation? 100% money-back guarantee. If you're not satisfied with your trip, you can get your money back, so, right? And so that's it's a unique thing for us because we say, no, we want you to be happy. It meets our mission, right? So that's what makes us stand out.
Now, most people that I know aren't familiar with, say, being able to fly affordably private. What is some of the landmark examples of success stories of some of your clients in terms of what they've spent to travel? What's their average kind of service or product that you'll see through your company right now?
So this is kind of the misconception that you need to have millions and millions of dollars to be able to fly private. That's absolutely not true. There's the big companies out there where you have to pay $5 million to get access to a fleet of private jets. A individual can fly with us as low as $800, $900. And we have this concept of fly sharing, so you can split your cost with others. So for example, very often it's groups flying to a convention, for example, in Las Vegas. They split the cost because they go directly from point A to point B without any connections or waiting or whatever else. The time that they're saving, and we save our customers average about 2.5 hours in terms of their flying experience, and that's worth maybe the extra $200 that you would pay. Because if you're flying on a Friday night to Las Vegas, even on Southwest, the ticket's going to be $300-400 at best, right? And if you can get a ticket. So I think people have to realize that they can actually, spend perhaps a little bit more than a first class ticket and get so much more, right? But beware of what you're buying. Do your homework. Look at what other people are offering out there. There's a lot of companies out there that do not control the quality of their fleet. You don't know who you're flying with. And so customers that come to us in terms of what they're looking for, if it's a VIP traveler, they're really looking, they're already, they're going to Las Vegas, they want to have a great time, they're already spending money on a table at a nightclub, right? And a suite. And we say to them, well, if you want to add a great flight and get that VIP experience, you can also then reduce the cost of the table and get the free upgrade to the suite, because we have those relationships. So those are some of the benefits. So you don't have to be, that super successful entrepreneur. I think it's whatever your motivation is, whether that's, I don't know, anniversary weekend, birthday weekend, an important meeting. You look at the value of the time, the value of, less stress. And so the purchase experience or what people are buying is completely different. It really depends on what they're looking for. I hope I answered your
questions. Yeah, that's awesome. We'll have to talk a lot more off camera, because that sounds exciting in terms of like stuff that I myself would love to get more on.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. This has been an awesome interview.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Cool.